We're delighted to be joined here today by Shaun Parsons, who's the Executive Assistant Manager at the Mina CI Complex here in Dubai. Shaun, thank you for your time to join us.
Pleasure.
And can I ask you to briefly walk me through the roles that you've had in your career to date that have allowed you to get to an Executive Assistant Manager's role?
Sure. I started very young. I started in a kitchen, actually.
Okay.
Would you believe? I was an apprentice chef with a company called the Regent, the Region of Melbourne, in Australia. And I then realised as I was starting my apprenticeship, my higher school certificate results came out, and I had the academic qualifications, I believe, then to go to university. So I went to university, and then got into food and beverage service.
In university?
While I was at university, as probably a lot of people do, they have a casual or part-time job while they're studying, and that was how I got into the industry. And then over that period, I was with a company called Hyatt International for 15 years. So with Hyatt, I moved from a banquet houseman to a banquet waiter to a banquet supervisor to a banquet assistant manager and at the end of the day, a banquet manager, then to an assistant food and beverage director role.
Okay.
Then to a food and beverage manager's role, then to a food and beverage director's role, and then eventually to the current role here, which is EAM, in charge of food and beverage. So it's been I wouldn't say slow, but it's been a steady rise to where I am today, and it hopefully will continue as we move forward.
Can you take me through a typical day now as to how you spend your days in an Executive Assistant Manager's role?
Yeah. As the Executive Assistant Manager, I mean, we here are a little bit unique in that we have one hotel open and we have one hotel on the horizon in the next few months next door. So my role is quite diverse in that I have an operation which is running, and I have an operation which is opening. So the normal day-to-day challenges of an operation that's running sees me here. I think at the moment I'm in around 7:30, and a day like today, which is a Friday, it potentially could extend through until 11 o'clock at night or midnight, depending on how busy we are in one of our biggest outlets. At the same time, through the course of the week, I have the other responsibilities looking after the pre-opening for the Western with the F&B director next door. So it is a long and it is a challenging day, but more so probably right now than perhaps it will be in the future, hopefully. But it's an interesting day.
And in those interesting days, I suppose, what are the greatest challenges that you encounter?
Here, particularly in this part of the world, it's probably the staff.
Okay.
It's a tough. It is a tough environment with regards to manning. You're relying on a lot of staff from other parts of the world, some of which, in many respects, are not earning huge amounts of money. So therefore, their motivation may be a bit different in terms of what they want to achieve out of their time here. So, staff typically is probably one of the biggest challenges that we have.
Okay. The greatest reward on the reverse from that then would be?
The greatest reward. I mean, it's probably at this point in time. If we look at the existing hotel, the Meridian, it's constantly trying to better our feats in one of our biggest operations in Barasti, where we're achieving. Last Friday we achieved $750,000 dirhams in revenue. So the reward is getting to that point where you know that you've done an enormous feat for an outlet that was previously in its busiest days doing 150,000 dirhams to now be doing 750 or close to that mark is amazing. So they're pretty important feats, and they obviously are rewarding. Also rewarding is seeing people develop, seeing people grow, seeing people that might have been an assistant manager 12 months ago running an operation and succeeding and delivering, and people leaving, obviously, hopefully more times positively than negatively, but leaving the operations with a great experience.
I think everyone in the industry probably meets someone who's very motivating or inspirational figure to them at some stage. Is there anyone who comes to your mind when you think of your experience in the past?
In terms of people I've worked with, I've probably had a couple of good F&B directors that I look at and I say, well, that's who I want to sort of replicate. Role models can also be people that you learn how not to do things in the future. And I've had a few of those. I've had probably one or two very good GMs who have allowed me to get to this point. If without them, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now. So I wouldn't say I have one, I have many. They're very important, as you say.
What were the competencies that these people had that you found motivating or inspiring?
Energy, passion. Without passion, you can be an F&B director without passion, but your F&B operation typically won't be that great. Dedication. These guys that I talk about, whether this be right or wrong, have sacrificed a hell of a lot to get to where they are. That might be family, that might be lifestyle, that might be a lot of things. And I think over time we all do that. But they're probably the biggest things.
I think we learn lessons on a daily basis, but is there any lesson that you've learned in your experience in the industry that was a hard lesson or taught you a lot?
Never to give up. One occasion I can recall, and it's probably the first experience I had with the industry. I was employed, and I was in university. I'd just gotten back. I was working in the United States. I was working in South Carolina. And I'd just gotten back to Australia and had searched quite a lot to find a job, and I got a job with a hotel. And we were all happy, and I had probably 5 other interviews lined up for the rest of the week. I got this job, and it was the hotel I wanted to work for. It was the chain I worked for previously, so I was happy. It was going to be a job in the bell desk of this hotel, in front office, or on the other side, if you like, not
front of house.
It was front line. It was a doorman within a hotel in Melbourne, and I cancelled all my job interviews. I had the contract, I had the letter, I signed it, I sent it back. I cancelled all my interviews with all the other 5-star hotels that I had lined up, and I got a phone call from this particular hotel, and they told me that they were withdrawing their offer. Subsequently, I learnt why they withdrew their offer, and it wasn't because of me as a candidate. It was because of some other political reasons in that hotel. But of course I'd cancelled all my interviews, so it was very hard to go back and try and reinstate those interviews. It was embarrassing. So anyway, I fought with this company, and they ultimately gave me a job, and that's where I started as a banquet houseman. And probably you talk about lessons you've learned. It's probably a lesson, but it's also a defining moment, because it was where I started, probably more so than anywhere else, in terms of food and beverage. And it taught me a lot, and never give up and always keep going, and yeah.
Very good.